shop, meet and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind, and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays. Waterfront outlet shopping.
I'm getting strawberry notes and a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazuki uses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness and packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
This summer at Chessington World of Adventures Resort, answer the call of the wild. With over 1,000 of the world's most amazing animals and over 40 of the wildest rides and attractions. Meet the Gruffalo and all your favourite characters at the Gruffalo Summer Party and so much more. Book early and save up to 40% at chessington.com. It's Britain's wildest adventure for all the family.
Everyone wants a smooth running home so that they can spend more time enjoying it. The British Gas app allows you to do just that, because with the touch of a finger, you could quickly pay your bill or book in a boiler service, leaving you more time to fire up the barbecue or just relax with a good book. Manage your home account and more all in one place. Download the British Gas app from the App Store or Google Play today.
Good morning. It is 11 a.m. at Peloton headquarters in New York City, 11 a.m. here on Wall Street. Squawk Alley is live. To Squawk Alley. I'm John Fort with Sarah Eisen and Leslie Picker, live from here at the New York Stock Exchange. Carl and Morgan have the morning off, left me all alone, but I got a good pair
Not
to be with
all
me this morning.
Yeah.
Well, I was all alone until you guys showed up. Yes, exactly.
Well, we're going to start off with the markets. Volatility certainly heating up. We've seen a big rebound in stocks this morning, though the yield curve is sending its strongest signal yet to the markets of recession, inverting to the worst level since 2007. Here to make sense of all of it is Ian Lingen, BMO Capital Markets Head of U.S. Rate Strategy, and Vinay Pandey, UBS Global Wealth Management Head of Trading Strategies. Ian, the move in bond yields, at this point, what's driving it? Because some of the fundamental data lately, I'm thinking consumer confidence yesterday has been a little better, and yet we continue to see these new lows on Treasury yields.
Well, frankly, there seems to be a race to zero in the global sovereign debt market, whether it's driven by the Fed or the ECB or what's going on in Japan. The fact of the matter is U.S. Treasuries yielding even now north of 2% end up being a huge buying opportunity, and that's what we saw in the long bond, and that's why there's been this consistent bid for 10 and 30-year yields at this range.
And that's why the president is so upset this morning, just tweeting out that our Fed is not mentally keeping up with other central banks and that they're all giddy over the low rates that they have there, and we don't.
Yeah, there also seems to be a bit of a circular argument involved here, and that is, has Powell actually been setting the stage for the administration to push further on the trade war front? And that's a real fundamental question for the Fed. Should they be doing that? And if so, how does that play into the global outlook?
That's the Dudley view.
Yes.
Yes, Bill Dudley, former New York Fed president, causing quite a stir, saying to the Fed yesterday, don't enable the trade war.
Vinay, we're starting to see companies more and more reacting to this global trade uncertainty. We heard from both Autodesk and HP Enterprise. We're going to hear from the CEOs a little later in this program, both talking about the uncertainty, not so much from how it affected the quarter that they reported, but how it's affecting the outlook. How do you expect that kind of, I guess, fear about what might happen to affect these markets going forward?
You're quite right. Indeed, we expect this increase in uncertainty to cap equities. And as a result, we have decided to modestly de-risk our portfolios. The uncertainty is stemming from disruption to supply chains and also to investment plans of CEOs and CFOs. But it's a very modest reduction in risk. We are neutral U.S. equities, and our underweight is expressed in developed country equities outside the U.S., as well as emerging equities, which are more the focus of this trade conflict.
Vinay, and what needs to happen in order to avoid a recession next year? Is additional Fed easing enough, or do you actually need a resolution on the trade war to make you have a better conviction surrounding equities at this stage?
We don't expect a recession. It is more that we think the upside is capped while uncertainty is so high. If we did expect a recession, as you know, these recessions involve 30 to 40% corrections. We would have a far more defensive position in equities. We don't expect a recession because the U.S. consumer is holding up rather well, and that is also reflected in our intersector, distribution of equity positions.
Which is what? I mean, where do you get exposure? Do you do the August playbook of the defensives with the utilities and rates already at record highs?
We think the consumer is still quite strong, and therefore we have overweight positions in the consumer sector, both in basics and as well as in the communication services. Our underweights are in the more trade-exposed areas, and that would be technology, that would be industrials, and also energy.
Ian, we are heading further into a political season. Mm-hmm. Do you expect the usual amount of market impact from the rhetoric and the polling around that, or something extraordinary, given that not only do you have the president with an aggressive, if constantly shifting stance on China trade, but also you've got Warren, you've got Sanders, and some others with some pretty strong language that's market related?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest trade over the course of the next year. Frankly, what I was the most surprised about in 2016 wasn't the fact that necessarily the GOP ended up with a victory, but more importantly, how the market traded it. The fact that it was purely traded on the party, I think, was the biggest surprise for me. It had nothing to do with any uncertainty associated with one candidate versus another. It was pure risk on. And so that's what I'm worried about next year, is if it looks like the Democrats might actually have a chance at the White House, then we would see big risk off. That might lead the Fed to do more, and then we're back into a dilemma not dissimilar from the one that Dudley has outlined.
Is it about the White House, though, or is it about the fact that all three, the House, the Senate, as well as the presidency, were all Republican? Now you still have kind of a mixed party in Washington. So would it have as much of an impact if the Democrats took the White House, as long as the Republicans at least maintained the Senate?
Intuitively, you wouldn't think so. I would expect that you would probably have a smaller amount of risk off, a smaller spike in equity volatility, and thereby a more muted impact on financial conditions, but it still matters. And that is the big trade for 2020, how the election plays out. And again, what that does or doesn't mean for the trade war. I think it's reasonably safe to say that the other side of the trade war in Beijing would like to see a different player on this side of the table, and that might be the trade that they're waiting for.
I don't know. I don't know that an Elizabeth Warren would be any easier to deal with on China trade, if that's who they're hoping for, or if they're hoping for someone else.
Easier or more predictable, I think, is the bigger question. And if we look at some of the headlines coming out of Beijing, their biggest concern is lack of predictability, looking for a moment of calm to move forward.
All right, Ian and Vinay, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
All right, when we return, HPE shares getting a boost this morning after a beat on earnings. The CEO joins us exclusively on the quarter on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Every day, visionaries are creating the future.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
The new Vauxhall Combo Cargo delivers. For the heavy lifters with its payload of up to a ton. For the fuel savers with its highly efficient engines. And it delivers awards, including International Van of the Year 2019. New Combo Cargo. Carries British business. From 168 a month with 6 years 0% APR. Vauxhall. British brand since 1903. Conditional sale. Minimum 18% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance subject to status. 18 plus. Small business users only. T's and C's apply. Search combo offer.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals. On computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Dad, I'm bored.
Why don't you help me wash the car?
Don't worry, this summer we've got loads of exciting activities to keep the kids entertained. How about you go explore the Tottenham Hale to Victoria cycle route and go clown spotting on the way?
Whee!
Look online for Asda Tour de Fun to find amazing walks here in London, from waterways to easy trails, all powered by Sustrans, a registered UK charity. Go discover your fun side with Asda.
Shares of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise rising in this morning's trade, posting a beat on earnings, but seeing revenue fall slightly below the street's forecast. The stock still up this morning, better than 3%. Joining us now in a CNBC exclusive, HPE CEO Antonio Neri. Antonio, good morning.
Good morning.
So I got to start with the macro environment because you pointed to it on the call right off the bat, saying we continue to see uneven demand due in part to ongoing trade tensions, which impact market stability and customer confidence, but saying nonetheless that customers are continuing to invest in digital transformation. When did you really start to see this, or was it just throughout the quarter? And as the quarter progressed, how did it change?
Yeah, sure. As I said yesterday in my prepared remark, we saw throughout Q3 an uneven market with a little bit softer demand. And I commented on this at the end of Q2. We saw already that in the last month of our fiscal year Q2, and that continue and carry on through the Q3 quarter. That said, customers continue to affirm the need to accelerate the digital transformation and take advantage of the explosion of data we see around us, which ultimately is the core aspect of how they derive to the business outcome. So obviously, the uncertainty kind of creates a little bit of pause. It takes a little bit longer for them to make decisions, particularly larger deals. And so that's what we saw in elongated sales cycles.
So do you, it looks from margins like you're not doing discounting, trying to kind of nudge that process along. Is it just a matter of the process taking a little bit longer because of that uncertainty, or is there a certain tactic that you're tending to use in certain regions to move things along?
No, John, listen, I think we executed with incredible discipline, both on the cost side and on the pricing side. We actually have done a remarkable job in the last 7 quarters to continue to make our cost structure more competitive and to streamline everything across the company. As you recall, when I became the CEO, I established 3 key priorities for ourselves, and one of them was at the core to start with our HP Next program, which was to re-architect the company from the ground up. That included a cost benefit, but at the same time, a portfolio shift. And we are seeing the benefit of that portfolio shift today in our margin profile. And so that gives us the ability to expand margins significantly. And I believe we delivered record levels of year-to-date free cash flow, which gave us the confidence to raise the guidance again for 7 consecutive quarters.
Huawei is a big player in the enterprise hardware market, and it's been quite a while now that we've seen the U.S. putting pressure on companies, not allowing them to do certain types of business with Huawei. What has the impact been now that this has sort of been normalized throughout the enterprise hardware ecosystem? What's the impact been? What do you expect it to be going forward?
Well, I think it's an opportunity for us. Listen, we have a very complete portfolio from the edge to the cloud, and that digital transformation starts with the connectivity, secure connectivity. So we have a phenomenal platform called Aruba that provides a mobile-first, cloud-first approach. At the same time, we are here to serve our customers in the countries where they participate. And we have a very diverse global supply chain that allows us to navigate through these challenges. So I think I take this as an opportunity for us to serve our customers better and continue to provide the value they're looking for. And obviously, we need to navigate through this uncertainty, whether it's Huawei or others. At the end, we are really focused on our business and our customers.
And your CFO on the earnings call yesterday said that fiscal year 2019 would be one where you do focus more on EPS and free cash flow, less so on growth, but that would come in subsequent quarters. Can you give us a sense of timing in which you would focus more on growth and how the macro backdrop could impact those plans?
Yeah, sure. As our CFO Tarek said, we focus this year in stabilizing our business and continue to shift our portfolio to higher value, higher margin, and deliver everything we can as a service to our customers. And you see the results of that in our portfolio mix in the key strategic growth areas like high-performance compute, which is the backbone for how analytics and AI will be run going forward. And we are extremely excited about the completion almost of the acquisition of Craig, which will be completed by the end of Q4. At the same time, in the core business, we have to continue to deliver what I call workload optimized hybrid cloud solutions delivered as a service. So we are on that journey. We make tremendous progress, and we have a truly differentiated offer called HP GreenLake, which is to deliver everything as a service. At the same time, because we have created more room for ourselves to invest in the business, we have invested in R&D and FSC, field selling cost, which will allow us to position ourselves for growth in 2020 to the 22. So as we get to the security analyst meeting in October there in New York, we're going to share our plans, where we're going to grow and how we're going to return to what I call company growth in total. But we are very, very confident in the 3 years plan that we have put together for the period of 2020 to 2022.
Yeah, you've emphasized that 3-year plan. So some analysts, even the ones who are relatively bullish on HPE, are wondering about 2020 and how much growth they can expect there based on what they saw as sales a little bit light in this quarter. What would you say to those who are concerned about 2020 growth, even outside of that 3-year growth target that you have?
Well, we have taken deliberate actions to vacate certain areas of the portfolio we call the commodity business, which we used to sell to the big cloud providers, and we have been winding that down for the last 2.5 years. At the peak, that business used to represent almost 20% of our compute revenue. Today is 2% of the revenue. And so if you do the math, that was several billions of dollars. So we have transitioned that out almost. And at the same time, we continue to grow the other areas of the portfolio. As we make the crossovers, I am very, very confident that in the 2020 and beyond, we're going to see a consistent execution on growth. But in the areas where we actually can deliver better margins and better recorded revenues, particularly with our HP FOREX services and HP GreenLake. That's our plan. That's our focus. We are on that journey. We are making progress. And, if you think about some of those strategic areas, our storage business this year is going to show growth overall. Our Aruba portfolio, excluding the China part, is going to show growth. Our Aruba service is growing 60%. Our HP GreenLake is on double-digit growth. So we are on the right path in the areas we want to invest. And I think, in the next 3 years, you will see the result of that strong execution.
We will continue to track it. Thank you, Antonio Neri, CEO of HP Enterprise. You can see that stock up better than 3.4%.
Getting some breaking news here on Apple. Josh Lipton has more from San Francisco. Josh.
So, Sarah, news here on Apple. The Guardian is now reporting that hundreds of Apple workers in Europe, and these were employed through contracting firms who were working to check Siri recordings for errors, are now out of work. We did remember that Apple had suspended that program, and then I'll follow that story in The Guardian that revealed how workers could hear information while checking Siri recordings. Remember, Apple did emphasize from the beginning those recordings were anonymous, that the data sent back was encrypted and randomized. Importantly, Apple also putting out a release saying, listen, it's going to resume what it calls this grading program later this year, but there are going to be some changes now, they say, including the fact Apple's saying it will no longer retain audio recordings of Siri interactions, and users will be able to opt in to help Siri improve, as well as when customers opt in, only Apple employees will be allowed to listen to audio samples of the Siri interactions. So some changes coming to what Apple calls that grading program to improve Siri. Guys, back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you. Coming up, shares of Autodesk getting slammed in today's session after lowering its fiscal 2020 earnings forecast. The CEO joins us in another exclusive interview right here on Squawk Alley. Don't go anywhere.
I like to make my life easy.
If it isn't dead, if it ever comes back, we'll come back to.
On September 6h.
This meeting of the Losers Club has officially begun.
They're back, and so is he.
We didn't stop it.
The clown.
Starring James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain.
For 27 years, I dreamt of you.
See how it all ends.
I craved you.
It, Chapter 2.
I missed you.
In cinemas September 6th. Book tickets now, rated 15.
There are certain things in life we simply don't talk about. And hemorrhoids are, right up there, so to speak. But we should, because there's 8 million people in the UK right now suffering with piles. If you're one of them, like I was, you should speak to Xroid. They're the Harley Street specialists in hemorrhoid treatment. It's a new, fast, gentle, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids, with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Consultation and treatment starts from $9.95. Xroid, be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
The new Vauxhall Combo Cargo delivers. For the heavy lifters with its payload of up to a ton. For the fuel savers with its highly efficient engines. And it delivers awards, including International Van of the Year 2019. New Combo Cargo carries British business. From 168 a month with 6 years 0% APR. Vauxhall, British brand since 1903. Conditional sale, minimum 18% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance, subject to status. 18 plus, small business users only. T's and C's apply. Search combo offer.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view. With Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind, and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays. Waterfront outlet shopping.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals. On computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things and strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings and
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
Shares of Autodesk falling sharply this morning, down more than 10%, despite an earnings beat after the company lowered its fiscal 2020 earnings forecast and narrowed its sales outlook, citing uncertainty over trade and global economic conditions. Currently the worst performer in the S&P. Joining us now in another exclusive, Autodesk President and CEO, Andrew Anagnost. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, John. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Markets taking this news of yours kind of rough, even though your quarter was strong. You said you're gaining share and adjusting your outlook just based on macro conditions, not in reaction to really weakening demand, it sounded like. So explain again for those holding the stock, or maybe not holding the stock, who might have missed it. What really is going on here? Why did you lower the forecast?
Yeah, so this is where CEO means Chief Emotions Officer. So to put this in context, let's be clear. At the midpoint of our revised guidance, the company's revenue is still growing 27%. We're still seeing 40% growth in billings, and we're going to deliver 12% expansion in margin just at the midpoint. And what people are thinking is, wow, is that really what's going to happen, or is Autodesk more exposed to something bigger that's going on? That's just not what's going on. What we saw is some softening in a couple of markets in Europe, particularly around the UK and Germany. But what's really driving our business is our customers' investment in digital transformation. And digital transformation is a 5-year macro trend for our customers in every single segment we serve: AEC, product design and engineering, media and entertainment. That trend is not going away, and customers are going to continue to buy. They're going to continue to buy construction solutions. They're going to continue to buy Autodesk leading solutions in product design and engineering, and they're going to continue to invest in building information modeling. So we're just being cautious. We're being prudent based on all the noise that's out there. But you can see our change in our guide was modest, and we believe we've got the numbers right.
You said the construction industry is also holding steady, quoting from the call, and continues to invest in innovative solutions. We saw ongoing strength in construction this quarter, specifically in Asia, not just in China, but regionally. What are you seeing? Is there any impact, demand-wise, of the tariffs and the trade war?
Yeah, so remember, Autodesk's exposure to China is less than 3% of our business. So we don't have a big China exposure. We did absolutely cite slowing in China as one of the factors, but we actually still grew in China significantly. But we're just not growing to the same level of expectations we had at the beginning of the year. So yeah, there's been an effect. We can't work directly with the state-owned enterprises like we were able to do previously, but it's a modest effect on our business. So we don't have a lot of exposure.
We similarly heard from HP Enterprises CEO just a couple minutes ago that digital transformation continues to drive this market despite the macro uncertainty. Is there a point where that tips? Are there metrics, numbers that you're watching where it does become a concern if, say, there's a no-deal Brexit or other things that you think could tip the scales in a bad direction?
Yeah, so we always watch the low end of our business, and the low end of our business is growing robustly. But one of the more important things I want people to pay attention to is even back in 07 and 08, which was a much bigger contraction than anybody thinks could happen over the next 12 months, our business continued to grow in the digital transformation areas. Our Revit business continued to grow. Construction IT spending continued to grow. And that's because when people are trying to transform their businesses, they're investing for the growth on the other side of any slowdown. So we still anticipate that digital transformation's going to continue to grow, even if we see broader signs like a no-deal Brexit or something associated with that.
What are you doing with investment in R&D, in capabilities? Sometimes during periods like this where investors are questioning a stock, even when there's a slowdown, which it sounds like you're saying there's not much of, either companies will pull back or perhaps put their foot on the gas when it comes to investment. What are you doing?
Yeah, so look, we were in a slow growth mode for almost 4 years where we were maintaining spend flat. We are investing. We are investing in go-to-market. We are investing in R&D because we believe the future over the next 5 years is incredibly bright, and our customers are getting disrupted in every single one of our markets we serve. They need more advanced solutions. They need capabilities. They need tools for digital transformation. We're investing in all of them. The construction investment is the most visible one right now.
Andrew Anagnost, CEO of Autodesk, that stock off 10%, but perhaps the investors aren't hearing exactly what you mean to communicate about the cautious guide. Thanks for clarifying all that for us.
Thank you so much.
European markets set to close in just a few moments. Seema Modi has a breakdown for us of all the action overseas and some political drama, too.
There's certainly a lot to digest, Sarah. Stocks in Europe are down, with the exception of the UK. But as you say, British politics really dominating the conversation there. Prime Minister Boris Johnson proposing to suspend the UK Parliament for as long as a month. It's seen as a political tactic to halt some of the opposing MPs from stopping a no-deal Brexit as that deadline of October 31st nears. By delaying the return of Parliament, MPs could call a no-confidence vote in Johnson's government. President Trump showing his support for Johnson, throwing cold water on that idea, tweeting, quote, "Be very hard for Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of Britain's Labour Party, to seek a no-confidence vote." Now, the pound is getting pounded. It's down about 0.5%, though off the lows of the day. Stocks in the UK staging a bit of reversal here. We're actually higher by 0.5%, but take note that shares of some of the major UK multinationals, whether it's EasyJet, Royal Bank of Scotland, Rolls-Royce, are all under pressure. Now, as stocks in the UK remain in focus, it's worth noting that investment in UK's private startups have actually hit a record high in 2019, despite these concerns over Brexit. New numbers coming out today show that UK's tech sector has nearly raised $7 billion in 2019 in companies like Greensill, fintech firms including Checkout.com and Oak North. Big investors, SoftBank and Amazon. Leslie, back to you.
All right, thanks, Seema. Let's get over to Sue Herrera before news update. Sue.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Here's what's happening at this hour, everyone. At least 25 people are dead after an arson attack by a suspected gang member on a bar in southeastern Mexico. 13 more people have been hospitalized with serious injuries. The attack is one of the worst since President Lopez Obrador took office in December, pledging to make Mexico safer. Citi raised its minimum wage to $15 an hour in June. That new data released by Representative Maxine Waters. The move follows political pressure from Representative Waters and others, and similar steps by other banks. Senator Johnny Isakson, Republican from Georgia, has announced plans to resign at the end of 2019, citing health reasons. He has Parkinson's. Georgia's senior senator, Isakson, was first elected to his position in the 2004 midterms. It means both Senate seats in Georgia will be open for November of 2020. And Fitbit announced plans for its latest smartwatch, the Versa 2, which adds Amazon's Alexa, music storage, and online payments. The Versa 2 will cost $200, and pre-orders begin later today. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Leslie, I'll send it back downtown to you.
All right, thanks, Sue. Maybe that's a watch to wear on the Peloton, because that company revealing its IPO filing late last night. We take a deep dive into that prospectus next, ahead of a debut that could come as early as September. We're back after a quick break.
Delivering Alpha, the most important investor summit 9 years running. Strategy from leading alpha generators. Direct access to policymakers and government leaders. On September 19th, see who's calling the shots now. Go to deliveringalpha.com to attend this year's blockbuster event.
You will come away with ideas that you can put to work immediately.
Plus, special guest Vice President Mike Pence talks economy and trade war impact. Reserve your spot now at deliveringalpha.com.
The new Vauxhall Combo Cargo delivers. For the heavy lifters with its payload of up to a ton. For the fuel savers with its highly efficient engines. And it delivers awards, including International Van of the Year 2019. New Combo Cargo. Carries British business. From 168 a month with 6 years 0% APR. Vauxhall. British brand since 1903. Conditional sale. Minimum 18% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance subject to status. 18 plus. Small business users only. T's and C's apply. Search Combo Offer.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view with Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike, and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet, and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind, and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays. Waterfront outlet shopping.
I'm getting strawberry notes and a flutter of sweetness without adding sugar. Clever. It is. Yazoo Kids uses a lactose-reduced milk that enhances flavour without adding sugar or artificial sweeteners. Milky deliciousness and packed full of goodness. Very clever. Strawberry Yazoo Kids supports change for life. Yazoo, shake it up! Contains naturally occurring sugars. Milk is a source of calcium, which is needed for the maintenance of normal bones.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
I'm home.
Hi, Mum. Wow, what's that?
Saltwater supercars from Shell. Toy cars that run on salt water.
Science-fueled family fun. Fill up with £30 or more and you'll qualify to buy a car from just $3.99.
Track ready.
Check.
Saltwater ready.
Check.
Go!
Fill up on fun with saltwater supercars at Shell. Participating sites, conditions apply. See shell.co.uk/saltwater supercars for details.
Galley Peloton revealing its IPO prospectus last night as a technology, media, software product, experience, fitness, design, retail, apparel, and logistics company. If your head is spinning, you may know the company as the maker of at-home bikes and treadmills. CEO John Foley penned a letter in the prospectus simplifying the business model even more. He says, quote, Peloton sells happiness. Foley says, quote, exercising creates endorphins and endorphins make us happy. Sound familiar?
Exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make you happy. Happy people just don't shoot their husbands. They just don't.
Happy people may also be more optimistic about the latest crop of IPOs. Peloton says it has 500,000 subscribers, which have helped double revenue in the year through June, but losses quadrupled over that same period. The company is expected to make its debut next month with a listing on the NASDAQ under the symbol PTON, or can we say Peloton? Note Comcast, the parent company of CNBC, is an investor in Peloton, guys.
That was the most impressive thing ever to get a soundbite from Legally Blonde into your hit.
I've been waiting a decade for this, for a chance to insert Legally Blonde into IPO coverage. So thank you, John Foley.
You made light of the fact that they characterize themselves in so many different ways.
Yes.
It's important, though, for how this company ultimately gets valued.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of conversations with analysts and investors who say, do I want to give this a high-flying technology multiple that looks more, that weights more on the software side of things, or am I going to look at other things about their business that may be, command a lower multiple, things like the hardware side of their business, things like the logistics side of their business, all command a lower multiple. So
apparel.
Exactly, apparel, retail, which they sell in their stores, and so that is definitely going to lead to some confusion, and that's what makes the roadshow, which could kick off as soon as a couple weeks, so important. But it's already been a big year for IPOs. Uber, Lyft, Slack, to name a few. Beyond Meat, Zoom Video, and CrowdStrike leading the post-IPO gains race. Beyond Meat up more than 500%. Of course, all of this as we still await a debut from WeWork and a renewed focus on shareholder democracy. Our next guest says companies should not be allowed to play by their own rules with dual class or even 3 classes of shares. Joining us now here at Post 9, co-founder of the venture capital firm Grey Patrickroft. Alan, thanks so much for joining us today. In this Peloton filing, they say that, they will have a higher weighted class of shares, 20 votes per share, whereas Class A shares will be given 1 vote each. It appears, although it's not completely filled out yet, it appears that they will have a sunset provision in there. After about 10 months, Smile Direct Club had a sunset provision as well. Pinterest, another one with a sunset provision. Is that enough for you from a corporate governance standpoint?
10 months?
10 years, sorry, decade.
10 years,
decade,
yes. Yeah. I mean, the sunset provision, I think, actually is a reasonable answer to this. But I think we have a disease that's set in, starting with the Google and Facebook offerings, which go back now 7, 8 years, and it doesn't stop. And of course, the poster child is WeWork, which is going. Snapchat was the poster boy in terms of overdoing this class voting. But a sunset provision is one answer. There are a lot of other answers. I mean, one of the things is the exchange could put their foot down and say they're not going to list.
You've seen indexes put their foot down.
The indexes
and they've pushed back.
Well, and it's had some effect. And the institutions it starts with, and the Council of Institutional Investors. And I mean, there's a whole food chain that could speak out on this issue. And what's happening is companies are going public, but they're not going public. I mean, they're saying the public will take your money, but you're not going to really have an opinion. We're going to be able to make the decisions.
But the Business Roundtable came out last week, and they said basically that companies don't necessarily need to be prioritizing shareholder value anyway for societal good. So, at this crux, should shareholders even be that upset about things when they're kind of getting relegated anyway in the minds of CEOs in corporate America, some CEOs in corporate America?
They absolutely should be. And what was brought out last week in terms of shareholder value, you and I both know, has more to do with pure economics than cosmetic. I think serious cosmetics are the fact that you can't just think about your shareholders. You got to think about your customers, and you got to think about your employees and society in general. But I don't think that weighs in on the issue of dual class voting. Dual class voting is a CEO who says, I want to tap into the public markets, but I want to control afterwards, and I don't want to take a chance. I mean, there's a whole discussion, for example, on the Uber situation of where there was control, there was dual control, but it was not differentiated. It was split among the various parties, and we'll never know what would have happened if Travis had actually had super majority control of that vote and what the outcome would be, because other factors weighed in.
Well, Uber went public with a single class of stock. And presumably, you as a venture capitalist have been a beneficiary of this dual class share structure, so you've seen it from the other side.
No, I wouldn't say why we're not a beneficiary. I would say, I checked just for curiosity in the last week. We have 220 companies in our portfolio. There's not one company at the venture stage that has dual class. Not one. And most venture capitalists don't have it, and most companies going public don't have dual class. We've had a few, more than a few now, and I say a disease because it's contagious. Peloton.
Can you explain to the viewer, though, Alan, what's wrong with it? Because they might look at a Google or Facebook and say, well, it didn't work out too poorly if you were a shareholder.
Well, because no problem is developed. But if you wanted to get rid of the CEO, and the CEO has bigger rights in terms of who's on the board, in several cases, including WeWork and Snap, and I don't know about Peloton, it succeeds their lifetime. It transfers to their estate and their wives. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, do it and everybody is at fault along the food chain. Actually, I don't think venture capitalists are really, and I'm not defending them, because I did check. I thought, I have never seen a company, any of my companies, it comes up at the time they're going public, and it's now getting to be, it's incessant. It's every place now. But not every company can pull it off. Peloton, which is popular with the public, and Zoom and other companies. Zoom has a sunset provision that's 20 years. How about that one?
It's a long time.
That's like having a 99-year lease on a property.
Alan, what should investors make of these creative, to put it kindly, explanations of what these companies do? I mean, we saw it from GoPro when they said they weren't a camera company. They were a media company, which of course they weren't. We see it from WeWork now and Peloton.
WeWork wants to be a technology company. It's not a real estate company.
Why? Or they're selling happiness, which I thought maybe it's love you can't buy. Maybe you can buy happiness.
Well, I'll tell you, this came about, I don't know, 5-10 years ago when the SEC changed the rules of prospectuses. Instead of having these very stiff prospectus, they let you put in pictures, and they let you have, it was called, I think the technical word was plain language.
I like the pictures.
You could talk in plain language. So what you just shown on camera is really the ultimate of plain language, I think, and a great analogy.
Quoting Legally Blonde.
To Reese Witherspoon is fabulous. I mean, I don't have anything against that. I mean, they're trying to portray their company in their best foot forward. Let me just say about Peloton. The Peloton is, based on the prospectus, is 80% an equipment company. However, of the members, I was very impressed by the very low churn rate, and churn rate is the key in a software product, and I think it's like 0.5%, which is amazing.
On a monthly basis.
Amazing.
On a monthly basis. Alan, thank you so much for your insight, as always. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Meanwhile, stocks turning around at session highs. A lot more Squawk Alley right after a quick break.
We don't sell annuities.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere. Because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view. With Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays, waterfront outlet shopping.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals on computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Dad, I'm bored.
Why don't you help me hang the washing up?
Don't worry. This summer we've got loads of exciting activity ideas to keep the kids entertained without even having to leave London. Make the most of the warm weather and go on a bug hunt or even a treasure hunt and cool down with some homemade ice lollies. Look online for Asda Tour de Fun for even more exciting activity ideas. Go discover your fun side with Asda.
I'm Scott Wapner. Here's what's coming up. Halftime report, top of the hour today with recession worries ratcheting up and bond yields falling again. Where is the best place to invest right now? Our investment committee is on that case, along with the former chairman of Goldman Sachs Asset Management, Jim O'Neill. Plus, the airline call that is sending one stock in that group higher today. We're going to debate whether it's the best name to buy right now in the group. And a fitness, media, software, social, apparel, logistics, retail, and design company prepares to go public. That's how Peloton is describing itself today. Should you buy into that story? It's all at noon on the half. John, you guys were just discussing. We'll see you in 15.
Yeah, you sounded like you just got off of Peloton after reading all that, Scott. Looking forward to it. And now it's time for the Santelli Exchange. Let's get out to Rick Santelli in Chicago. Rick.
Thanks, John. You know, yesterday I didn't get to weigh in very heavily on ex-New York Fed President Dudley's comments, but CNBC did a wonderful job in that regard, and pretty much everybody I deal with on trading floors was pretty dismayed that a Fed member of that high order and being head of the New York Fed is a key post within the organization would have and harbor such political issues. I'm sure they didn't just crop out of left field after he left, but it doesn't really matter. The president does things that are a bit unusual with regard to how he communicates his thoughts to the Fed. I'm more interested in the Fed's response, and the response was the right response. Basically, Forget all that stuff. Maximum employment and price stability. The problem is that's a bit of a stretch, too. If you look back at central banks, and particularly our central bank, they really went way over their skis if their two pillars is the only thing that's supposed to give them life with regard to how they interact in the marketplace. Indeed, they and all central banks have robbed all of us of market signals. Markets don't really care about data much anymore in the U.S. They certainly don't seem to care much about all the auctions and the enhanced size and how much T-bill issuance is coming or the debt and debt accumulation that the country has. But these markets will at some point care. It's just that it's very hard to determine when that time is. But consider the Fed's answer. It's all about price stability, okay, maximum employment, which leads me to the thought of, does that mean that the current Fed thinks that lowering rates will address either of those issues and improve them? And that is, to me, is the important issue not to lose sight of, even though they have evolved into kind of Greek gods with respect to how they think they influence the U.S. economy. They went from nudgers to transformers to disruptors of the first order. I don't think lowering rates is going to address those two issues. And Mario Draghi's gotten in front of the Fed in the last meeting, and certainly they're going to do it again on September 12th. But the one thing that Dudley's op-ed didn't mention at all on Bloomberg, and that was, and Ira Harris and I've discussed this, it's the dollar. We're the reserve currency. This president wants to make the most political hay he can. I get it. He wants the economy like a Ferrari to have its fastest quarter mile time as the election comes, even if it robs that engine of future performance. But at the end of the day, he can also go around the Fed by FX intervention, which Dudley never mentioned. And this is a road less traveled and much more damaging, but this president is determined, and that ought to be a discussion we have. Reserve currencies shouldn't play maneuvering in the FX markets. Leslie, back to you.
All right, Rick Santelli, thank you so much. Dow back in the green at session highs. Here are the names leading the index higher this morning. We're back in a minute.
Some things are hard.
Hi, bees.
Hemorrhoids. You talk to your GP, but you don't really get anywhere. Because the NHS has limited surgery for hemorrhoids, so you go on suffering in silence. Okay, maybe not so silent. It's time to speak to Xroid. They specialise in a new, fast, safe and effective procedure for hemorrhoids with no downtime, and the procedure takes just 30 minutes or less. Don't be one of the 8 million people in the UK suffering in almost silence. Get back to what you love doing. Xroid. Be kind to your behind. For free advice on hemorrhoids, text KIND to 81156.
The new Vauxhall Combo Cargo delivers. For the heavy lifters with its payload of up to a ton. For the fuel savers with its highly efficient engines. And it delivers awards, including International Van of the Year 2019. New Combo Cargo. Carries British business. From 168 a month with 6 years 0% APR. Vauxhall. British brand since 1903. Conditional sale. Minimum 18% deposit plus VAT at 20% on total price. Financed by Vauxhall Finance subject to status. 18 plus. Small business users only. T's and C's apply. Search combo offer.
Live big and spend less on the brands you adore. And dine by the waterside. Who could want more? Lap up the savings as much as the view. With Ted Baker, Hackett, Nike and Coach too. Lock Fine and Five Guys make it a date. You can shop, meet and eat every weekday till late. So sit back, unwind, and let style lead the way. And give yourself a different day at Gunwharf Quays. Waterfront outlet shopping.
Did you know Currys PC World do business? Saving your business up to 30% with mega deals. On computers and printers, electricals, large screen TVs, and even more. Top brands like HP, Microsoft, Epson, Sony. And if you find it cheaper from any major retailer, we'll match it. Get these deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strength and things. Strings and things and strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings, strings, strings and things. Strings and
Now there's a whole
range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
Protein supplier called Purus receiving an additional $75 million investment this morning from Cargill. This comes as more restaurants and fast food chains are adding meat substitutes to their menus. Last night on Mad Money, Nestle CEO Mark Schneider commented on the high demand for plant-based alternatives.
Plant-based is a major theme for us, and it's not only about meat analogs, it's also about dairy. So think about ice cream, think about coffee creamers. On the burgers, we have it out in Europe. We're doing really well. We're launching the Awesome Burger in the United States in September, so we're a few weeks away from that, and it's going to be great.
Joining us now, the president of Purus, Tyler Lorenzen. Welcome, Tyler. So, are you really the biggest supplier of pea protein in this country?
Absolutely. We were the pioneers of creating a pea protein isolate here in the United States, and backed by a plethora of USA farmers that we supply seeds to and buy their crops. It's been an exciting time the past few months in the pea protein space, no doubt.
Yeah, talk about what you're seeing in terms of demand from Beyond Meat and whether you deal with other companies as well.
Yeah, we deal with a lot of different companies. Really, Purus is the engine behind the shift, more the intel inside. And when you look at what the market needs is really consumers are demanding more. The market's growing at 31% of plant-based foods and expected to keep growing. A $4.5 billion industry, and by 2030, $85 billion industry. So the opportunity is massive. Consumers are demanding the products, and what we're doing is trying to enable it through investments on manufacturing as also with our growers.
I mean, we see announcements almost on a daily, if not maybe weekly basis of major fast food chains adding Beyond Meat or Impossible to their menu. So are these companies, specifically Beyond Meat, hottest stock of the year, able to keep up with the rising demand?
It speaks to the shift to the mainstream consumer adoption, and really looking at how do we bring this to the table. Really, when it comes to Beyond Meat and other manufacturers, they have their role in creating the marketing and the consumer touch points. But then there's, behind that is the manufacturing of the ingredients and the ability to supply. I'm certain that farmers can. I know Purus is, through our partnership with Cargill, we're enabling it as well. And other manufacturers are coming to the plate. And I'm just excited to see what all the brands are doing, how they're speaking to the consumer needs, and really where this market is going over the next few years.
Tyler, here's what I don't get. I remember the Beyond Meat prospectus, and they talked about getting a majority of their high-quality pea protein supply from Europe. It sounded like supply was going to be an issue. But then since they went public, it sounds like they're saying supply is fine. So it sounds like either supply really is fine and the price that you're going to be getting for your pea protein maybe isn't that great because supplies aren't tight, or maybe we're not hearing the whole story about how tough this market really is to get enough pea protein. Which is it?
It's certainly a capital-intensive business, and the size and quantum of the market needed to be there for companies like ours to invest in it. And with help from Cargill, we're able to get ahead. So when you look at Beyond Meat and everyone in the plant-based sector, it's growing at double-digit clips. 31% compared to 2% on conventional food. So no doubt it's going to take a lot of effort. But what we're doing is debottlenecking it and adding that production capacity. The farmers are able to